How are you doing today?
Where am I?
Radio Reyes,
Elder Curb!
I bestow upon you taxes. Wait, no. Radio Reyes, I bestow upon you the old.
So what does this mean for me?
Taxes!
What's a tax?
Taxes!
And now, for the Radio Reyes interview.
I knew him for a little bit. He's alright. Yeah. Shout outs for radio.
I remember when I watched Radio Reyes. He posted a video about Dean coming in with a bars. Oh, yes, this was a great video back in the day. I don't know what happened. Oh, no.
I remember when Radio Reyes told me he was going to release Through My Sacrifice 2025 in 2025. It is 2037. When Radio Reyes approached my throne, I thought he was a loser.
Radio Reyes killed my grandma. But he's pretty cool, I guess.
Radio Reyes, he's like a father to me. He's pretty cool. He's a little weird. He's kinda gay. He's really awesome. He makes music. You know, when the things go like cling, cling, cling. One thing I have to mention is when he saved me from drowning in my own tissue box. I was begging for my life, screaming out. Goku was there. My LED controller was looking at me. Radio Reyes came in like Superman. He crashed into the ground and died immediately on impact. And that gave me the motivation to get out of the tissue box and win the lottery. Now I'm broke and homeless, and it's all thanks to Radio Reyes. So Radio, happy birthday, man. Go have fun. I love you, sus. So day. Go have fun. Go have fun. Go have fun. Yeah. Who are you again?
My favorite thing about radio is that he is a very kind person.
I don't have all day.
And he
left my family alone.
He left my family alone. He was he was very generous.
You want to see them again or not?
Do I have?
Do it.
Okay. He was very generous. He's a very kind soul. And I'm very grateful that he's here. I read it.
Is that so much? Stop crying.
Radio Reyes, you need a girlfriend.
And now a word from Radio Reyes. Hi. It's my birthday. One of those big men now or something, I don't know. I still make music, believe it or not. That's it really. Bye-bye now.
You know, and that's a good question. That's a really good question. Perhaps even a great question. I like that question a lot. And good questions, those are important. It's good to ask good questions. You don't ever want to ask a bad question. Some people would say there's no such thing as a bad question or a stupid question, but there's always questions that are, well, in their nature, questionable. But you take a look at a question like that one, and you're like, that is a good, well-structured question, because it really gets you thinking. And the thing with questions is there's always Well, not always, because there's always exceptions, right? We always find exceptions in things. It's human nature to have exceptions, to have discrepancies in data and in facts. But with good questions, of course, with exceptions, you usually, not always, get good answers. And I feel like that is a root of human nature, is asking good questions to get good answers. It's the pursuit of knowledge. It's something that we all have inherently. Of course, maybe not all of us, because, again, exceptions. But we don't have to get into that. I don't need to dwell on that for too long. No need to keep bringing it up. But a good question and a good answer, right? That's a pair that we need to see more of in the world. It's important that we ask good questions and we get good answers. But what really defines a good question and a good answer? Well, it's structure, it's the pursuit of knowledge, it's the accessibility of it, it's the way that you can look at something both surface level and on a deeper level and really understand more different ways of thinking about things. And that's so important for humans and human intelligence, and it's just great to have good questions being asked and then to give a good answer. And so for a question like that, it feels like I need to have a good answer to that, and that's so important to have in the question asking process. But the question itself, being a good question, right, doesn't always permit the answer to be good. I could give a bad answer, and that would be one of the exceptions I mentioned previously, which, again, we don't need to keep bringing up, but lo and behold, it has been brought up again. But I would like to give a good answer to this question because it's a good question. So, favorite thing? Well, I do like how he asks good questions. That's on topic, right? He definitely asks good questions, but favorite thing? Well, not all of his questions are good, and he doesn't give great answers either. Maybe we can rule that one out. Let's think of something else, because it is a good question, because it gets you thinking. And, getting someone to think it's an essential part of a good question, and that's where we're at right now. I've been asked a good question, so now I'm really thinking about an answer, and I want to give a good answer to this good question. I don't want to be in that exception group. I don't want to give a bad answer to a good question, because it's not a bad question by any means. If anything, this question is one of the better questions I've been asked, because it's really just a thought exercise, honestly, and that's so important that we maintain thought exercises and that we stretch the capabilities of our brain and how we think. So a good answer to this question, a favorite thing about him. Well, it's a tough one. You really do have to sit down and think about it, because there's nothing that really comes to mind immediately, right? He's around sometimes. He'll talk about, well, not really about things, he'll just talk generally. He knows some people. I know more people, so maybe not the best answer for that. What else? Favorite thing? I can give some least favorite things. Maybe if I work backwards from least favorite things to most favorite things, I'll get a good answer for this really good question. Because you see, it's got me thinking. This kind of question is so important because it gets the brain running. It gets the wheels turning, the gears turning, the little hamster wheel inside the head. That's a good metaphor people use. Good metaphors, that's another thing. Metaphors are so important to our literary context and to understanding things and expressing ways of understanding things to other people, right? Because if you just say something factually, not everyone's going to get that. But if you put in a metaphor, it's more accessible. Because not everyone learns the same way. Not everyone processes information the same way. So good questions are important, but good metaphors, I would say, are even more important. It's such a explicit part of language that you need to have. If there's no metaphors, if there's no personification, all the articles of speech, you need those, right? We wouldn't be able to speak without them. But I can't really give a good metaphor without working backwards from bad metaphors. I need to give a good answer to the inverse of this good question, so then I can get the proper answer to the good question. So, least favorite things. Well, I can name a few. So, one time I saw him, he had a bunch of bugs. I think they were cicadas. He had cicadas and he had beetles and he had grubs and maggots all in his teeth. It was kind of gross. I didn't really like that because I saw him and I was like, well, I smelled him first and then I saw him and I thought, well, what is that smell? And he smiled at me and he had this big black grin in his mouth. It was almost scary. I definitely gagged a few 5 or 6 times, and these bugs started falling out of his mouth, and there were even some in his nose. I think one of his eyes rolled around for a second. It was really weird. I didn't like that very much. Another thing with the smell thing, right? The rotting mouth adds to it, but he also just has a general aura of not amazing scent. I would say it's like garbage composter a la carte kind of smell. Sort of like a damp noodle that was left in the sun with fried rat corpse. It's not the most appealing smell in the world. So I don't like that about him. Also, he doesn't really say anything funny. He says things that are supposed to be jokes, but they're not. I don't know, sometimes you can't even understand them. It feels like he doesn't speak English in a lot of the things he says, because you'll hear him and you'll be like, what? And then he'll say it again. You'll say, no, I mean, what do you mean by that? I heard you, but what do you mean? And then he'll say something, what feels like a made-up language. I don't even know if he speaks English. It's hard to tell, but I don't really pay attention enough to listen to what he says. What else? He's 96 years old, but he acts like he's a lot younger. That one's kind of weird. It freaks me out a little bit because, I don't know, I saw him talking to some people that he probably shouldn't have been talking to for being 96, and it made me a little uncomfortable, but that's fine. It's just part of the human experience to feel emotions like uncomfortability. And, negative emotions, I feel like, are just as important, if not more important, than positive emotions in the human experience. And I think that's something that people don't talk about enough because, you sit down, you really think about it, you think, well, all the experiences that really stick out in my head, I mean, there's a lot of good ones, but I feel like there's always more bad ones, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a sign of development. It's a sign that you're growing as a person. And by asking good questions and giving good answers, you can also feel good emotions, right? Because you'll be satisfied with the answers you've given to good questions, the good answers you've been given to good questions. You give a bad answer to a good question, guess what? Bad emotion. And that's important. That's so important that we recognize these things. But I've been trying to brainstorm things I do like about him. And, I don't really have any favorites, but possibly there might be another way where I could start thinking of some things. But I think I just need some more energy in my brain. And, managing energy and homeostasis and these ways of keeping your body stable with your mind on the same level, on the same page, that's something so important to the human experience. It's something that we really need to hone in on more. A lot of people don't take care of themselves enough, and it affects their mental health, or the other way, they don't take care of their brain, and affects their physical health. It's linked. Those two are directly linked. It's so important that we take care of everything. Emotions, good emotions and bad emotions, that's something we touched on. The mind, asking good questions, giving good answers. The body, having good health. You don't want to have bad health. I mean, obviously, no one wants to have bad health. Radio has some bad hygiene, but he does seem overall healthy for being a 96-year-old corpse that smells like sun-dried rat feces, almost. It did have kind of a feces tinge, It was... Now that I think about it, it was definitely just rat feces. I think that was what was on his teeth that led to the bugs arriving, possibly. But let's take a sidebar from that, because now I'm hungry now that I'm thinking about that. So I'm going to do a little bit of brain food, all right? And I think it's always good for people to eat when they feel low on energy, because, I mean, it's literally a way of giving energy back to your body. So I'm just going to, just for a second, gotta think about all the important things, the things I like about him. They don't come to mind immediately, but I'm thinking that this will give me a little bit of a upper hand. And you know what? Honestly, I got nothing, but maybe I'll record another thing and I'll have a better answer. Yeah. Mm.